and the millions around the world who wish they could be here. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Kayo edition, baby. What's up, everybody? Those signs were made by my beautiful 5-year-old son last night. I told y'all my production assistant was going to be getting better as the days went along, and we spent quite a bit of time last night making those. He is learning to write his letters. His handwriting's not the greatest, but when you're 5, your handwriting's not very good anyway. Teaching him how to hold the pen properly and learn to write better. And that was a good exercise for us last night. So bear with me. That's why it was on construction paper, and some of it looked a little bit messy possibly, but hey, I thought he did a really good job. And if you heard the intro to the video, that was the great Michael Buffer. And Michael Buffer always had the biggest fights in the world, and that was exactly how he got people pumped up to start the fight. I'm wearing my Muhammad Ali shirt today. He's the GOAT. No question about that. Muhammad Ali, the greatest fighter of all time. Best defensive fighter, one of the best jabs ever, greatest heavyweight. So now you might know where I'm going with this. We're going to be opening up a box of 1991 Kayo boxing cards. I've never seen these cards in my life. Never knew they existed, to be quite honest with you. But we're going to open up a full case. We're going to do it in 2 separate videos. A round 1 and a round 2. And Bryson helped me make some other pictures or other signs that we'll be putting up as we go along throughout the video. But prior to, like I say, we always want to talk a little bit about history and a little bit about the sport of boxing, the evolution of it. And of course, since it's the year 1991, we're going to talk about the heavyweight champ, because the heavyweight champ, that's the one that most people care the most about. Historically, the heavyweight champ is the biggest athlete in the boxing world. Kind of like, LeBron and Jordan in basketball, or Cal Ripken in baseball, or, pick whoever you want that you would consider a GOAT in a certain sport. In 1991, the heavyweight champ was Evander, the real deal Holyfield. He had a huge fight against George Foreman that year, who George Foreman was making the comeback. Of course, George Foreman nearly had his entire career derailed by Muhammad Ali when Muhammad Ali knocked him out in the Rumble in the Jungle with the rope-a-dope tactic, and pretty much one punch took him out. And it took him a very long time to recover from that, because up to that point, Foreman was just destroying everybody that they put in front of him. And the reason Evander Holyfield had those title belts in that fight is because he beat James Buster Douglas. And if you remember, Buster Douglas is the man who beat Mike Tyson. That's how he got those belts. And that's still, to me, a very controversial fight. I felt like Tyson had knocked Douglas out, and the referee counted slow. And in the next round, of course, Douglas knocked Mike Tyson out when he spit his mouthpiece out, couldn't get it back in time. And by the time he got to his feet, it was over with. In 1991, the top 10 boxers: Julio Cesar Chavez, Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker, Terry Norris, Evander the Real Deal Holyfield, Meldrick Taylor, Riddick Bowe, and I think Riddick Bowe was beaten by George Foreman, to be honest with you. Buddy McGirt, who went on to become a great boxing trainer himself. KOP Galaxy, a smaller guy. James Lights Out Tony, who had a very long boxing career, very entertaining boxer. He fought in a lot of divisions. I think he ended up in the heavyweight division because he just gained so much weight as he got older. And Soon Kill Man, and of course the great Tommy Hearns was still a champion, but he wasn't considered one of the best at the time. And but that's the 90s part of boxing that was really popular. But to me, one of my favorite boxers of all time was somebody we talked about in college. He was the Jackie Robinson of boxing world. Matter of fact, he was Jackie Robinson before Jackie Robinson. The first black heavyweight champion of the world was Jack Johnson. He had a record of 72-11 throughout his career, about 38 knockouts. But he fought during Jim Crow era, when initially he had to be the champion of the black division of boxing because they didn't let him fight white guys for the longest time. And when they finally let him in the ring with white guys, they found out the reason why they didn't want to have him in the ring. He pummeled people. Again, like I said, he became the first black world champion, and that was in, I want to say 1914. Anyway, Jack Johnson followed this Canadian guy named Tommy Burns around the world for 2 years. 2 years, followed him around the world, begging him to give him a chance to fight for the title. And Burns finally agreed to for $30,000. Now, $30,000 back then, that's probably around the equivalent of, I don't know, $300,000 plus a day, maybe $500,000, which is a huge sum of money for that time. And Jack Johnson stopped him in the 14th round, just straight knocked him out. The police actually had to come and break up everything in the ring. It got ugly in the arena. People were not happy that a white man had just gotten beaten by a black man for the World Heavyweight Championship. But Jack Johnson did more than that. He was flamboyant. He dressed flamboyantly. He dated white women. He opened a restaurant that was desegregated that served whites and blacks at the same time, which was kind of unheard of at that point. But the most messed up thing I think about Jack Johnson is he was arrested for transporting a white woman across state lines for immoral purposes. That forced him to leave the country for a number of years and fight overseas, but he eventually did come back to the United States and served 1 year in prison in Leavenworth, which is, if you've ever know about prisons, Leavenworth is one of the worst. He got out of there and continued to fight, but my favorite one was they called it the fight of the century back in the day. This is the one I learned about in a sociology class in college. He fought James Jeffries, who was a former world heavyweight champion, and he was kind of running his mouth saying that white fighters were better than black fighters and were far superior. And Jack Johnson didn't take too kindly to that and knocked him out via TKO in the 15th round. And at that fight, people weren't allowed to bring guns in. No alcohol was sold. Drunk people were thrown out. And that goes back to when Jack Johnson won the world title, how the crowd reacted at the end of that fight. So, he was, like I said, kind of a Jackie Robinson figure prior to Jackie Robinson. And also, too, the way I look at Jack Johnson as the sport of boxing is the flamboyant manner of boxers nowadays, the way they enter the ring, the way they conduct themselves outside of the ring, like a Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather always carries $1 million in cash with him. My sister-in-law and her husband recently had a trip to Vegas. They went to see 2 Chainz in his residency, and Floyd Mayweather walked past them with his entourage, and somebody was carrying the bag. And in that bag is the $1 million in cash. And my brother-in-law said it was like a $5,000 bag, easy. And I'm thinking probably more like a $50,000 bag. But hey, I don't know. But Floyd Mayweather, his nickname's Money for a reason. But Prince Nassim Ahmed used to always have these crazy entrances. Amir Khan had crazy entrances. Trash talking prior to the fight. Muhammad Ali was the best at that. I think he got inside of George Foreman's head prior to the biggest fight. He got into Joe Frazier's head so many times that Joe Frazier probably, still thinks about him even though he passed away a number of years ago. George Frazier's probably still in heaven right now thinking like, man, that Ali guy, he got into my head and that's why I lost to him. But that flamboyance, that flair for the dramatic, the trash talk, I would say Jack Johnson was one of the first to really bring that into the sport. And it's made the sport what it is today, except for the fact that all the pay-per-views are just, gosh, they'll wear you out, man, and they're so expensive. I like to watch the fights on ESPN when they're free. My dad and my brother and I, the 3 of us, used to pay for fights all the time. And we loved Manny Pacquiao. We loved watching him fight. We loved watching Mayweather fight. We loved watching Ricky Hatton fight. My favorite fighter of the last probably 30 years was Kelly the Ghost of Lennox. He was from Youngstown, Ohio. He was a middleweight world champion. He beat Jermaine Taylor in one of the greatest fights. Me and my brother were watching that fight like, you'd watch the last 2 minutes of the Super Bowl. Because he gets knocked down. We think he's out, done for the fight. He gets back up. Next round knocks out Taylor. So that's the sport of boxing. One punch can change it. In just a split second, the fight can be over with. And I also think it paved the way for the UFC and the popularity that the UFC has today. they can kind of thank boxing for that, because the sweet science, as boxing is known as, has opened the door for many athletes. And probably, another of the greatest ones ever was Mike Tyson, somebody that came from absolutely nothing. I mean, his parents were not very good parents. I'll just go ahead and leave it at that. His trainer, Customato, pretty much helped to, father figure him. He became world heavyweight champion, the youngest at the time, and one of the best of all time. But, money and fame and bad promoters and people taking money from him, ended up being his downfall. I think that's why he lost in Japan to Buster Douglas. And if you ever watch an interview with Mike Tyson, he'll tell you quick, he spent $400 million like it was nothing. And that's just because of the people he had around him. So when I talk about Jack Johnson, we talk about race. We can't bury that part of the United States. It's not like those of us today necessarily do those things. We're not going to go at somebody just because they're black or Hispanic or anything like that. But racism still exists. And we need to understand that the past that we come from has helped to shape the future that the present that we're in, and we can change the future that we're heading towards by understanding that past. So, Jack Johnson, great guy, great fighter. Unfortunately passed away in a car crash in Raleigh, North Carolina in 1946. So, we're going to get to opening up these cards. I'm really anxious to see what's in there. Like I said, I got my Ali shirt on. I've got Shohei Ohtani over here, my ace in the hole this week. He's been there. We pulled out some great cards and some other little stuff from Bryson that he helped me make last night. And we'll see if this is going to be a fun video or not. I'm having a good time already. So I'm really anxious to see the cards. I hope you are too. So stick around. It's the APMB Boxing Special.
This man has never knocked nobody out cold. He's a bully. He's slow. He has no skill, no footwork. He's awkward. And I have been given him a name. I named Floyd Patterson the Rabbit. I named Sonny Liston the Bear. And he shall be known as officially as the Mummy. The Mummy.
And why the Mummy?
Because he fights. When he's fighting, if you ever watch him in the ring, he drags like that out his opponent.
Round one of the APMB Boxing Special. You just heard a little snippet of the greatest of all time, Muhammad Ali, talking just a little bit of trash about Smoking Joe Frazier. He talked so much trash leading up to those Frazier fights, man. It was absolutely hilarious. Throughout this, we'll listen to a little bit more of Ali, because I just think sometimes Ali is just it's funny, and it's kind of historical, because again, like I said, it's influenced the way that boxing has gone nowadays. And this is round one, part one of the video. And these are the cards themselves, and it's still mostly sealed. This kind of broke, I think, on transit here. You see the box is pretty neat. 1991, 14 cards per pack, 36 total packs. There's Tommy Morrison on the side, the Premier Edition, of course. They always say Premier Edition, don't they? In the back of the box, made in Rutherford, in East Rutherford, New Jersey. So yeah, these are American-made cards, and there's the UPC on the bottom. So they are legit. And this hasn't been opened at all. This is a 30-year-old box of cards. 32 to be exact. And they look to all be intact. They're in great packs. And we're going to, like I said, we're going to do this video in two separate parts. So we're going to break them out in two stacks and then close the box back. Now it says that there are hologram cards possibly, and possibly autographed, if you see that there on the front. So my guess is we're looking for one of those two to really make this an awesome day. Like I said, Shohei is back there, hoping to be our ace in the hole. We got our Vote for Idols and our Freedom Day pin up, because we were again speaking about racism and integration in this country. And if you're a racist person, just go ahead and turn this off. That's all I got to say right now. But we're going to open some cards and have some fun. can see a checklist. Ingles Pedrosa. Do not know that man. Dwight Muhammad. Why? The commissioner card. Wow. You get your own card if you're a commissioner, I guess. Jorge Paez. Now that's a good fighter. Mike McCallum. John Mugabe. Matthew Hilton. I can vaguely remember him. Now here is... Now I'm not sure. I think that's an Ali card. No. Leroy Neiman card. And it's a great portrait card, by the way. Not a hologram, but a portrait card. Set that to the side. Might be a little something. Rafael Ruelas. Reggie Johnson. Jeff Harding. And, of course, checklist. We always keep checklist cards. All right, we'll move on to pack 2. Cards feel really good. They are taken care of, that's for sure. I don't see any bends or breaks. I think there may be a checklist in every pack because we're seeing another one here. I'll do them pretty quick. He's a Salud. Jamel Hinton. And Julio Cesar Vasquez. We need Julio Cesar Chavez. Scotty Olsen. Simon Brown. Azuma Nelson. Donnie Lalonde. There's a promoter, Bob Arum. He still promotes fights. Billy Costello. All-time great. We'll set that to the side. Louis Lamelli. Tyrone Jackson. Alexis Arguello. All-time great. Now, that's another good card. And it's got a gold border. So, again, these aren't like the cards from the day, but the gold border might mean something, but it's an all-time great card. And Alexis Arguello, definitely an all-time great boxer. Look him up for yourself. Watch some of his highlights. They were amazing. I think he was a... early 80s, late 70s, early 80s champion. I believe he fought American Aaron Pryor and had some good fights against him. Oh, come on now. They've all been opening up so nice and easy to this point. Yep. We will just have to go to the blade. Yung Kwon Kim, Tony Baltazar, I remember him, and Roy Jones. Now, is that... That's Roy Jones Jr. And this is all KO fights. So it says 13-0. I mean, this has to be... We're going to sleeve this one because this has to be one of the earliest things that he ever had done, because he wasn't fighting on HBO in 1991, or at least that I can remember yet. But that's a Roy Jones card. Man, look how young he looks there. Ah, man, that might be an awesome find right there. Tyrell Biggs, another guy I know. Virgil Hill, another fighter I can remember. Jesse Benavides, can remember him. Robert Daniels, no. Randy Gordon, another commissioner card. Boy, I tell you. Greg Page, didn't you have to be an athlete to get in this set. Vinny Pazienza, another great fighter from this era. Juan Negron. Mitch Green, another great fighter from the era. Thomas Tate. And there... And I just hit the edge of it. But there is the Julio Cesar Chavez card. He was the pound-for-pound #1 guy at this point. So this is another card that is going to get the plastic treatment for the moment. Julio Cesar Chavez. And boy, I'm telling you, that guy fought a ton of fights. I think he fought over 100 fights in his career. Just destroying people, too. His son isn't a bad fighter as well. So, wow, what a pack there. Julio Cesar Chavez and Roy Jones Jr. Nope, checklists aren't in every one. Bobby Cassidy, all-time great. Looks like he may have been fighting in the era. Man, who wore a shirt to fight? If you were in a boxing match and you're wearing a tank top, really, you gotta evaluate your priorities, yo. Stevie Collins. But there's the checklist, as always. Osvaldo Cora. And there is the Sugar Ray Leonard card. Sugar Ray, of course, an American icon. He's one of those guys that had his name and face put on a lot of merchandise back in the day. Another great fighter, though. There's the back of that card. Another gorgeous card. Good heavy weight on these cards, like I said. And Carlos Palomino, all-time great. Anthony Jones, lightweight. And this is a Boxing Hall of Fame card. We're going to set that one to the side. Let's see what the back of it looks like there. It's just a story. But it looks to have Ali. Is that Ali or is that Mike Tyson? I can't read it. I think it says heavyweight champion and it's Mike Tyson. Maybe it's the years. We'll set that to the side. Yuri Balloon. Joe Louis. Now, that was another great boxer, another great heavyweight from back in the day. And it actually has his stats, some of his fighting there. Of course, where he lost in knockout by age to Rocky Marciano, who went 50-0, one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. That fight that Joe Louis lost to him was crazy. Nobody was predicting that. Lucy Soto Espinosa. Now look at this guy. That just looks like the oldest, schoolest, I'm ready to fight postures in the entire world, but we're going to keep that one to the side. Ezra Charles, another great, and Joey Gamachi at the end there. I'm already loving these cards, man. These guys, they knew how to make a good card. And look right here on the back. We're just going to take it out. That is a Lennox Lewis. This is a Lennox Lewis card from 91. This is before he was a champion. I guess you would consider them like rookie cards. Lewis was a heavyweight champion from England. The only heavyweight champion outside of Rocky Marciano to beat everybody he ever faced, because he went back in the ring when he lost to somebody and knocked him out. I think it was Hasim Rahman, who he beat up on the set of, it was an ESPN talk show, but he beat him up on the set there and then beat him up in the ring afterwards too. But Lennox Lewis, a lot of people hated him. They hated his style. But a great boxer. I think he was trained by Freddie Roach, the same trainer for Manny Pacquiao for a number of years. But yeah, that one is getting the sleeve treatment as well, because he just, look how young he looks there in the picture. I mean, he ended up growing out dreadlocks and becoming heavyweight champ. And actually, Lennox Lewis is the most famous person to ever tweet back at me, because they were tweeting live during a boxing match, and I asked him if he was just going to get back into the ring, and he tweeted back at me, no chance. So, yeah, the most famous person to ever reply to a tweet during live TV for me, and it made me kind of shake for a second, because I actually like the guy. Freddie Pendleton, good fighter. Robert Kitoria, Donald Curry. Leonard and Durant. Now, Durant was known as Hands of Stone. Leonard was the faster, lighter on his feet boxer. And this probably comes from a picture from after before the No Mas fight, where Durant just said no mas. He didn't want any more. He was tired of chasing Leonard around the ring. I think this is, yes, the same picture card we got from earlier. Breland. And that's pretty cool. Guy holding a belt over his head for his picture. That's, if I'm on a boxing card, that's the boxing card that I want. Todd Foster. Another checklist. Orland Norris was a good fighter. There is the Roberto Duran. And the last card on there is, look at that, guys. After talking about him, we talked him up. Mr. Jack Johnson. I'm getting blinks in my power right now here at the house. That's what those lights were. If that continues, we'll have to shut the video down for a second. But again, there he is, Mr. Jack Johnson himself. Going to give him some plastic. This will be a personal collection keeper for me, regardless of value. Jack Johnson, again, like I said, one of the greatest of all time. First black heavyweight champ. If you watch the first part of the video, you know exactly what I'm talking about there. And Gary Canizales. I remember him too, that the name Canizales is ringing a bell. There's Palimo. Anthony Jones. Okay, we've gone through those. All right, just making sure I've got my stacks kind of mixed up. I got a little happy when I saw the Jack Johnson card there, guys. My bad. Okay, go through them a little faster. Charles Williams. Lou Duva. Larry Holmes, heavyweight champ. There's Buddy McGirt, James Buddy McGirt. Roger Mayweather, that's Floyd's dad, Floyd Mayweather's father, Money's daddy. Jerry Glandello and Gabriel Ruiz. We've already found about everybody I thought I could out of this set. Larry Hazard, Jesus Salud, Jamel Hinton, I remember him. There's Julio Cesar Vasquez. Keeps punting on me with the Cesar Chavez. Scott Olsen. Simon Brown. And Azuma Nelson. I remember him. Still looking for a hologram card, which would be pretty neat. Dusty DeRose. John David Jackson. Dennis Andries, Sergey Artemev, Don Allison, Ronaldo Snipes, Bobby Sfiz, Raul Perez, and Vito Antuofermo, all-time great. Yeah, the gold cards around them apparently are all-time greats. Sugar Baby Rohan, love the name. Angelo Dundee, one of the greatest trainers of all time. Kenny Gould, Dave McCauley, and on the very back, a Glenwood Brown. All right, we're rolling up on 30 minutes on this video. I'm trying to get these cards open a little quicker so we can go through them a little quicker. But I'm going to quit saying that because I'm just having a good time. I hope you are too. A lot of these boxers, if I'm not recognizing somebody that you recognize from back in the day, let me know down in the comments. And I'll definitely go back and give them a little more love. Now, that card, seen better days there at the bottom. Not a big deal. Nate Miller. And Finkel. Ewing. Freddie Pendleton. Aguilera. Seamus McDonough. Donald Curry. Here's another of the Leonard Duran card. That's just the third one we've now gotten for Leroy Neiman. But that picture is beautiful, we'll admit. Mark Breland, junior middleweight. Junior Jones, I remember him as well. And there is a Floyd Patterson, all-time great. Yeah, James Johnson, or Jack Johnson opened the door for Joe Louis, Floyd Patterson, those kind of guys that came after him. Black fighters that became world heavyweight champions. There's Smoking Joe. Greatest left hook you ever seen. James Buster Douglas. The man to beat Tyson. So that one, we're going to just stop for just a moment and put that one in a sleeve because this might be his shining moment time in his life was that card and that knockout. The Battle of the Ages. Holyfield going the distance against George Foreman. And I talked about that being the fight of the year. So, yeah, there's the card for it. Well, I didn't even know. Like, literally, I had no idea this was going to pop up in this pack. And we talked about it prior to. So, good thing we've done a little research prior to our video today. Burt Sugar, one of the greatest writers. This guy was always on ESPN smoking the cigar and just talking about the old days of fighters. Louis Espinosa, great fighter. Daryl Tyson, not the Tyson that we want. Julian Jackson was a good fighter. There he is, Meldrick Taylor, one of the top 10 fighters of this era. So we'll set him off to the side. Lindell Holmes. Shambra Mitchell. Now this is Matchmakers. Limited special interest. I'm not sure. I think they're just writers or something of that nature, but I don't know. They got baseball on their card. What just, who knows? That just threw me off a little bit. Never seen something like that in a particular sports box before. They were wearing. I guess this might be the days before they would go after you for everything trademark. Yeah, some of these cards, man. Still hunting, anything that says Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali on it, Virgil Hill, still a good fighter. Benavides, Oliver McCall, another good fighter. Bruce Strauss, look at this. Man, he looks like Rocky, doesn't he? It looks just like Rocky, yo, in the movie. In the movie. And what did Rocky say in the movie? Cut me, Vic! Cut me, Vic! He needs to be cut, yo. Somebody's done took him out. All right, we set that one to the side. I love that card. That's a keeper. Victor. Christopher Tiozzo. And that looks like an amateur card, by the way. We'll set that to the side. We don't know. Richard Steele, referee. That dude refereed forever. I mean, he still might be refereeing right now. We'll set that to the side. Sco Damini. Brian Mitchell. Michael Nunn, great fighter. Stevie Martinez. Robert Wangia. There's Lights Out Tony. So we're finding all of the top 10 boxers of this era now. We found pretty much all of them. And Kevin Kelly on the back. I think he was a pretty good fighter. Let me push this pile up here. Yeah, that Roy Jones card, though, to me, might be the prize so far. Look, that him and Lennox Lewis, those two cards are very young of them. Ezra Charles, all-time great. Joey Mockery. McGuire. Nate Miller. Chris Eubanks. I remember him. Pendleton, we've seen that. Robert Giora. Jonah Curry, we've seen that. We've seen that card. We've seen that card. Mark Breland, we've seen that card. And again, the card with the belt, we've seen those. Almost to the end of the first half here of the box. No hologram yet. No autograph yet. I'm thinking that those might be 100% pipe dreams at this point, but one can dream always until there's no reason left yet to. There's another Meldrick Taylor. Lindell Holmes. Sharba Mitchell. Another of those cards. George Cepeda, we've seen that. Pompey. Charles Williams. Another Duva trainer. There's another Larry Holmes. And another Buddy McGirt. Another Roger Mayweather. Of course, he's better known for his son than he is for himself. Although he was a good fighter. He was a good fighter. I'm not going to put him down. I wouldn't want to get in the ring with him. And there's another commissioner card. I gotta tell you, they put boxing commissioners on the boxing cards. They must have had to make a complete set. Some people probably wouldn't sign to have their face on this. And I'm betting Mike Tyson didn't sign to have his face on this. Tyson. There's another Joe Frazier. There's another Buster Douglas. Another Battle of the Ages. Another Burt Sugar. Louis Espinosa card. Julian Jackson card. Another Meldrick Taylor. Lindell Holmes. And Sharba Mitchell. So yeah, some of these commons might not be as good as I'm thinking that they are. I've found now, like, you know, multiple Meldrick Taylors. But of course, at this time period, you know, they were the best in the world. So it would be like opening up a pack of baseball cards, and, you know, the best players, you're going to find them in there. So along with a lot of commons. Darren Van Horn. And Willie Pep, another great all-time. Miss Milton. Is that the Weaver triplets? Home match. What is 3 on a match? Well, that's pretty neat. Bruce Seldon, great knockout artist. Eddie Hobson. Gene Fullmer, all-time great. Jade Scott. Tim Witherspoon. And there is the one from the cover. Mr. Tommy Morrison. Man, he was a great knockout artist. One of the better fighters of his generation. But boy, his lifestyle ended up taking its toll on him. Of course, he contracted HIV. There's Ken Norton. Ken Norton fought Ali. Ken Norton's son played for the Dallas Cowboys, and now Ken Norton's son, Ken Norton, is also a defensive coordinator, I think still for the Cowboys or somebody in the NFL. But yeah, this is his dad. Great fighter. Emil Griffith, all-timer. And Tracy Spann. And we've got 2 packs to go, and then we will be stopping this video. Again, it's very long. Sorry, but I went about 10 minutes chit-chatting beforehand because that's what this channel is about. It's about cards, but it's also about culture, news, things of that nature that were occurring at the same time that these cards were popping out, and then some things that led up to it. So I hope you watched the first 10 minutes of this video. It was did quite a bit of research for it. Patterson. Michael Carbajal. Now that is another good card. This dude was a baller, and it's got the champion logo down there on it. So I have yet to see that logo where it says champion on it. Carmen Basillo, another great fighter. There is another of the Lennox Lewis cards, and I'm going to continue to put these in because it just like with baseball cards, which I think hold the most value because you try to collect Hall of Famers. He's a Hall of Famer, champion in his own right. Okay, Pedrosa, Muhammad. Minker, Jorge Paez, Mike McCallum. Sorry, guys, I kind of getting a little fast here. John Mugabe. All right, last pack for round 1. Todd Foster, he was a good fighter. I had a checklist. Orlin Norris, good fighter. Finally got a Roberto Duran card. Mr. Hands of Stone himself, boxing legend. Gary Canizales, good fighter. There is another of the Jack Johnson cards. Juan Koki. Dan Duva. Okonota. Peter Matrevsky. Terrence Ali, he was a good fighter. Joe Gotti? Is that Arturo? I think that's Arturo Gotti's brother, Joe Gotti. I mean, you could tell the similarity. I think that's his brother. One way or another. And Edwin Rosario. Okay, and here is the last really good card out of that group. Sugar Ray Leonard, Fighter of the Decade card. So we are right at 40 minutes. We're going to take a break. We're going to go sit on the stool, get a little water, maybe get some ice on our face from the beating we just took. We didn't get a hologram. We didn't get an autograph. that doesn't matter. We saw a lot of cool things, talked about a lot of cool things. We will be back for round 2 shortly.